Welcome back, coin enthusiasts. Today we're uncovering the fascinating story of top 5. First up, the 1985 2-pence coin of Queen Elizabeth II. The British 2-pence coin, often referred to simply as the 2p, is one of the most recognizable pieces of modern UK coinage. First introduced in 1971 during the decimalisation of Britain's currency system, the coin was part of a sweeping reform that replaced the old pounds, shillings, and pence with a simpler decimal system. By 1985, the coin had already cemented its place in everyday transactions, but the issue from that year carries its own importance in the wider history of Elizabeth II's reign. Decimalisation was officially introduced on February 15, 1971, also known as Decimal Day. Before this reform, British currency was notoriously complex, based on 12 pence to a shilling and 20 shillings to a pound. The 2p coin became one of the core denominations of the new decimal system, designed to replace the old tuppence in the pre-decimal series. When the 2-pence coin was first released, it was struck in bronze, composed of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. This metallic composition gave the coin its distinct reddish-brown appearance. By 1985, the coin was still being minted in this original bronze alloy, unlike the later copper-plated steel issues introduced in 1992. The obverse of the 1985 2-pence coin carries the second definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. This portrait was introduced in 1968 and remained on coins until 1984. However, the 1985 issue is especially interesting because it became one of the transition years where the Machin portrait was phased out and Raphael Maclau's portrait was introduced. Collectors note these shifts keenly, as they represent generational changes in Elizabeth II's coinage. The Queen is depicted facing right, wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a piece of jewelry that has become iconic in its own right. This portrait was elegant and youthful, capturing the stability and continuity of Elizabeth's reign during her middle years. On the reverse, the design chosen for the 2p coin is a badge of the Prince of Wales. This consists of a plume of 3 ostrich feathers emerging from a coronet, with a ribbon bearing the motto, Ich dien, meaning I serve. The design links the coin to the long history of the Prince of Wales title, traditionally given to the heir apparent of the British throne. The choice of the Prince of Wales badge for the 2-pence coin was deliberate, as the designers of decimal coinage wanted each coin to symbolize different aspects of British heraldry and history. In this way, the 2p stood not only as a piece of currency, but also as a cultural reminder of monarchy and tradition. The denomination new pence originally appeared on the reverse of the coin from 1971 to 1981. However, beginning in 1982, the inscription was changed to simply 2 pence. Therefore, the 1985 issue carries the updated legend, which makes it distinct from the earliest versions of the decimal coinage. The shift from new pence to 2 pence was meant to reflect the fact that decimalisation was no longer new. By the 1980s, an entire generation had grown up using decimal coinage, and the government deemed it unnecessary to keep reminding the public of the new system. The diameter of the 1985 2-pence coin is 25.91 millimeters, with a weight of 7.12 grams. Its size and weight made it one of the larger coins in circulation, giving it a distinct presence in the pocket and a certain familiarity to those who used it daily. Millions of 2-pence coins were struck in 1985 for general circulation. Unlike certain other years, the 1985 issue does not include extremely low mintage numbers, but significance lies in its position within the broader numismatic timeline of Elizabeth II's coinage. For collectors, the appeal of the 1985 2-pence coin lies in its transitional role, its bronze alloy, and heraldic design. While it is not considered a rare coin in ordinary circulation, coins in uncirculated condition or proof issues from sets hold special value. The Royal Mint also produced proof versions of the coin in 1985 as part of annual collector sets. These coins, struck to a higher standard with polished dies and blanks, show the design in crisp detail and are particularly desirable for those who collect decimal proofs. Interestingly, the history of the 2-pence coin also intersects with cultural quirks in the UK. In 1989, the government officially demonetized some decimal coins of low value, but the 2p survived, largely because it remained essential for everyday purchases and vending machines. In 1992, the composition of the 2 pence coin changed from bronze to copper-plated steel, as rising copper prices made the old alloy too expensive. This means the 1985 issue belongs to the original era of true bronze coinage, adding another layer of interest for collectors. Over time, bronze coins like the 1985 2p have developed natural toning, with some pieces showing deep brown, red, or even rainbow hues depending on storage conditions. This makes each coin slightly unique, and tone examples can sometimes command higher collector premiums. From a cultural standpoint, the 2 pence coin is often associated with small everyday purchases, arcade machines, and seaside amusements in the UK. Many British people remember feeding stacks of 2p coins into arcade slots, making the denomination not only a monetary tool, but also a piece of nostalgia. In terms of symbolism, the Prince of Wales badge on the coin also carried contemporary relevance in the 1980s. At the time, Prince Charles held the title, and the nation was captivated by his highly publicized marriage to Princess Diana in 1981. Thus, the 2p coin indirectly connected to one of the most iconic royal couples of the modern era. The motto, Ich Dien, on the reverse design reflects service and loyalty, values long associated with the monarchy and its heirs. For those who view coins as cultural texts, this small coin conveys messages of continuity, loyalty, and heritage. The mintage figures for 1985 were healthy, but not extraordinary. As a result, circulated examples are easily available today, often worth no more than face value. However, proof sets and high-grade coins with no or can fetch higher prices among numismatists. In modern markets, a 1985 2p in brilliant uncirculated condition might sell for a few pounds, while proof specimens in their original Royal Mint packaging can be valued more highly depending on demand. Collectors who specialize in full-date runs of decimal coinage often prize the 1985 issue as part of a complete set. Beyond monetary worth, the 1985 2 pence coin represents a piece of Elizabeth II's long reign, falling almost exactly in the middle of her monarchy. It is a symbol of her enduring presence on British coinage, which remains unmatched in duration. For young collectors today, the 1985 2p coin serves as an entry point into the world of numismatics. Affordable, accessible, and historically interesting, it is often one of the first coins added to a beginner's collection. In conclusion, the 1985 2 pence coin of Queen Elizabeth II may not be the rarest or most valuable coin in British numismatics, but its history is rich. It reflects the early decades of decimalization, the traditions of monarchy, and the heritage of British minting. For collectors and enthusiasts, it remains a timeless piece of currency, offering both historical weight and cultural nostalgia. Next up, the British 2 pence coin, commonly called the 2p, is one of the most recognized denominations in the United Kingdom's decimal coinage system. By 1987, it had been in circulation for 16 years, having first been introduced in 1971 during the decimalization reform. The 1987 issue, struck during Queen Elizabeth II's reign, represents continuity, stability, and the evolution of modern British coinage. Decimalization was one of the biggest changes in British monetary history. Before 1971, the system of pounds, shillings, and pence was cumbersome, with 12 pence in a shilling and 20 shillings in a pound. The new decimal system simplified everything into 100 pence to a pound. The 2 pence coin was created as part of this reform, designed to make small, everyday transactions easier. In 1987, the 2 pence coin was still being minted in its original bronze composition, 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. This gave the coin a rich reddish-brown shine when freshly minted, though circulated examples often developed darker brown, or even rainbow-like toning over time. The obverse of the 1987 2 pence coin features the third definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, created by sculptor Raphael Maklauf. Introduced in 1985, this portrait shows the Queen wearing the George IV state diadem, a crown famously worn on the way to the state opening of Parliament. The Maklauf portrait was designed to emphasize regality and dignity. Unlike earlier portraits that highlighted youthfulness, this one presented Elizabeth II as a mature, confident monarch at the height of her reign. By 1987, this portrait was well established on British coinage, including the 2p. On the reverse, the 1987 2p coin carries the badge of the Prince of Wales, 3 ostrich feathers emerging from a coronet, with a ribbon inscribed Ich Dien, meaning I serve. This heraldic emblem links the coin to centuries of royal tradition and the monarchy's connection to service and duty. The wording on the reverse reads 2 pence, a change that had been introduced in 1982. Prior to that, from 1971 to 1981, the coins carried the words New Pence. By 1987, the updated inscription had been firmly established, reflecting that decimal currency was no longer new, but a normal part of British life. The coin has a diameter of 25.91 millimeters and weighs 7.12 grams. Its relatively large size compared to other denominations gave it a strong presence in circulation and made it easy for people to identify by touch and sight. In everyday life, the 2 pence coin was widely used in 1987 for small purchases, such as bus fares, newspapers, and vending machine items. It also became culturally associated with arcade slot machines, particularly penny pushers at seaside resorts, where 2p coins were a staple. From a symbolic perspective, the Prince of Wales badge on the coin had contemporary resonance in 1987. At the time, Prince Charles held the title, and his marriage to Princess Diana was still a central part of British royal life, with the young Princes William and Harry attracting media attention. The mintage figures for 1987 were substantial, as the 2 pence coin was still in heavy circulation demand. While not considered rare in general circulation, coins from this year are significant for collectors who build complete date runs of decimal coinage. The Royal Mint also issued proof sets in 1987, which included the 2 pence coin struck to higher standards with mirror-like finishes. These proof versions are far more valuable to collectors than circulated examples, as they highlight the fine details of both the obverse and reverse designs. Collectors note that while the 1987 issue is not scarce, condition matters greatly. Brilliant uncirculated examples, coins taken directly from Royal Mint sets, or proof strikes are sought after, while worn circulated coins usually trade for face value. The bronze composition of the 1987 coin is also historically important, as this was just a few years before the Royal Mint switched to copper-plated steel in 1992 due to rising copper prices. This means the 1987 coin belongs to the original, true bronze era of decimal coinage. Over the years, many coins from 1987 have developed natural patinas and toning. Some exhibit deep chocolate brown surfaces, while others display striking rainbow tones. Numismatists often value these variations, especially when the patina enhances the overall eye appeal. The 2 pence coin is often underestimated in terms of cultural symbolism. While worth very little in monetary terms, its design, durability, and widespread use made it a constant companion in British life. The 1987 issue is a reflection of that continuity, carrying both everyday and symbolic value. For young collectors, the 1987 2 pence coin often serves as an entry point into British numismatics. Affordable and easy to find, yet tied to rich history, it introduces them to the idea that even ordinary coins tell extraordinary stories. Economically, the coin represented stability in 1987. Inflation had changed the purchasing power of the 2p since 1971, but still retained utility in vending machines, transport, and small retail purchases, ensuring its place in circulation. In the wider context of Elizabeth II's reign, the 1987 2 pence coin is another chapter in her long and enduring presence on British money. Coins bearing her portrait became symbols of her legacy, with each portrait change marking a new era of history. In conclusion, the 1987 Elizabeth II 2 pence coin may seem like just another small bronze piece, but it embodies decades of history. It represents the decimalization era, carries heraldic royal traditions, features a stately Macklow portrait, and connects to British cultural life. For collectors, it remains an important date in the series and a timeless piece of Queen Elizabeth II's coinage history. Let's get started up the 1995 United Kingdom 2 pence coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II. This covers its design background, symbolism, cultural role, and collector value. The British 2 pence coin, commonly known as a 2p, is one of the most familiar denominations in modern UK currency. Introduced in 1971 during decimalization, the coin was still widely circulating by 1995, when Queen Elizabeth II's portrait dominated the obverse. The 1995 issue sits at an important stage in both the monetary and cultural history of Britain. Decimalization was a revolutionary step in British monetary history. Before 1971, pounds, shillings, and pence followed a system that was centuries old but complicated, with 240 pence in a pound. The new system simplified the pound into 100 pence, and the 2 pence coin was one of the main denominations created for everyday use. In 1995, the 2p coin was struck primarily in copper-plated steel. The Royal Mint had switched from bronze, 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin, to copper-plated steel in 1992 due to the rising cost of copper. This change meant that the 1995 circulation issue belongs to the newer era of copper-plated steel coinage. However, some special edition proof sets in 1995 still use the original bronze alloy. These bronze strikes are prized by collectors because they represent the last echoes of the true bronze era, which had defined the coin's character since 1971. On the obverse of the 1995 2 pence coin is the third official portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, created by sculptor Raphael Maklauf. First introduced in 1985, this design shows the Queen wearing the George IV state diadem, with elegant detail and sharper relief compared to earlier portraits. The Maklauf portrait emphasized the Queen's maturity, regality, and enduring role as head of state. By 1995, this design was firmly established across all UK coinage and symbolized the stability of her reign in the late 20th century. On the reverse, the 1995 coin continues to feature the badge of the Prince of Wales. This heraldic emblem shows 3 ostrich feathers emerging from a coronet, with a ribbon bearing the German motto, Ich diene, meaning, I serve. The reverse design linked the coin to centuries of royal tradition, while also carrying contemporary meaning, as Prince Charles was a Prince of Wales in 1995. The symbolism of loyalty and service reflected both monarchy and national values. The inscription on the reverse reads 2 pence. This legend had replaced the earlier new pence wording back in 1982, once decimalization was no longer considered new. By 1995, the phrase 2 pence was long standard. The coin's physical specifications were unchanged, a diameter of 25.91 millimeters and a weight of 7.12 grams. Its large size made it easy to recognize and gave it an enduring place in Britain's everyday transactions. In circulation, the 1995 2 pence coin was commonly used for small purchases, vending machines, and transport fares. It also had a strong cultural connection to amusement arcades, where 2p coins were often used in coin pusher machines. The mintage of 1995 was high, with millions struck for circulation. This makes the coin common in worn condition, and circulated examples generally hold only face value. However, uncirculated in proof, examples carry much higher collector interest. The proof sets from 1995, struck with mirror-like surfaces and sharp detail, are particularly valued by numismatists. These sets preserve the coin in pristine condition, contrasting sharply with the wear and scratches seen on circulation strikes. The copper-plated steel composition introduced new quirks. Unlike bronze, steel-based coins are magnetic, which provided a way to distinguish between earlier bronze coins and newer issues. Collectors often find this detail fascinating when comparing different eras of the same denomination. Culturally, the 2 pence coin became embedded in everyday British life by the 1990s. Many households kept jars full of them, and the phrase, "every penny counts," often include a humble 2p, emphasizing thrift, savings, and small contributions. The heraldic design on the reverse also carried symbolic weight during the 1990s. The motto Ich Dein reminded the nation of the royal family's role in service, even as public opinion about the monarchy fluctuated during this decade. While common in circulation, coins from 1995 remain an important part of full year-by-year collections of Elizabeth II's decimal coinage. Their collectability comes from their place in the timeline, not from rarity, but proof and uncirculated issues stand out. Coins from 1995 also age differently compared to earlier bronze strikes. The copper-plated steel coins often lose their plating or show spotting over time, while the bronze versions tone more gracefully, turning deep brown or developing rainbow-like patinas. Historically, the 1995 issue falls just before another major change in coinage portraiture. In 1998, Ian Rank Broadley's portrait of the Queen replaced Maklauf's, making the 1995 coin part of the Maklauf era of design. This gives it added context in numismatic study. In conclusion, the 1995 Elizabeth II 2 pence coin is both ordinary and historically meaningful. It marked the solidification of copper-plated steel coinage, continued the regal Maklauf portrait, and carried forward the heraldic badge of the Prince of Wales. While common in circulation, it remains a key piece for collectors and a reflection of Britain's monetary and cultural history in the mid-1990s. Let's get started up the 1997 UK 2 pence coin, Elizabeth II. This year is especially interesting because it marks the final full year of the Raphael Maklauf portrait before the next change in 1998. The United Kingdom 2 pence coin, known popularly as the 2p, has been a mainstay of British coinage since decimalization in 1971. By 1997, the coin had already been in circulation for over 25 years, and while it was a familiar everyday coin, it carried with it layers of history, tradition, and cultural meaning. Decimalization, introduced in 1971, transformed Britain's centuries-old currency system of pounds, shillings, and pence into a simpler structure of 100 pence to a pound. The 2 pence coin was one of the new denominations, created to fill the gap between the 1 penny and the 5 pence. In 1997, the 2 pence coin was minted in copper-plated steel for circulation. This change had been made in 1992 due to the rising cost of copper, replacing the earlier bronze alloy of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. The switch made the coin more economical to produce while maintaining the same look and size. The bronze version did not completely disappear, however. Proof and special collector editions struck by the Royal Mint were still produced in bronze, making these 1997 examples sought after by numismatists who value the true bronze heritage. On the obverse of the 1997 2 pence coin is the third official portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by Raphael Maklauf. First appearing in 1985, this design remained in use until 1997, making that year the last to feature the Maklauf portrait across the full coinage range. The Maklauf portrait is distinctive, showing the Queen wearing the George IV state diadem. It portrays her as a strong and regal monarch, with an emphasis on elegance and maturity, reflecting her role as a respected head of state well into the late 20th century. This portrait had become iconic during its 12 years of use. For many people in Britain, the Maklauf image was a defining portrait of Elizabeth II in the 1980s and 1990s, and the 1997 2 pence coin represents the closing chapter of that era. On the reverse, the 1997 coin retained the traditional badge of the Prince of Wales, 3 ostrich feathers rising from a coronet, with a ribbon inscribed with the motto Ich Dein, meaning I serve. This design linked the coin to heraldic traditions dating back centuries. In 1997, Prince Charles continued to hold the title of Prince of Wales, giving the design contemporary relevance as well as historic continuity. The emblem symbolized service and loyalty, themes central to the monarchy's identity. The inscription on the reverse reads 2 pence. This legend had been in use since 1982, replacing the earlier new pence wording that had appeared on coins from 1971 to 1981. By 1997, 2 pence was standard and widely recognized. The coin retained its specifications, 25.91 millimeters in diameter and 7.12 grams in weight. Its relatively large size compared to other coins made it instantly recognizable in circulation and a distinctive presence in British currency. In everyday life, the 2p coin remained a practical tool in 1997. It was used for bus fares, vending machines, newspapers, and particularly in amusement arcades where 2p penny pusher games were a beloved tradition for families. The mintage of the 1997 2 pence coin was high, ensuring its availability in circulation. This means that circulated examples are very common and generally worth only face value, but uncirculated and proof examples hold collector interest. Proof versions struck in 1997 were produced with mirror-like finishes and sharp detail, highlighting the artistry of both the obverse and reverse designs. These coins, usually sold in Royal Mint collector sets, are far more valuable than circulation strikes. Collectors prize the 1997 issue because it represents the final year of the Maklauf portrait before Ian Rank Broadley's new portrait debuted in 1998. Transitional years in coinage portraiture are always of numismatic significance, and the 1997 coin is no exception. Another point of interest for collectors is the composition difference. Circulating coins were copper-plated steel, but proof and set issues were bronze. This distinction added an extra layer of value and variety to the 1997 2 pence series. Over time, copper-plated steel coins from 1997 often show spotting, but were differently than earlier bronze coins. Meanwhile, bronze proofs age more gracefully, developing rich brown patinas or rainbow-like tones, which are especially valued by numismatists. Historically, the 1997 issue sits at a crossroads. It marks the end of the Maklauf era, the continuation of copper-plated steel as the main composition, and the bridge to the next chapter of Queen Elizabeth II's portraiture in 1998. For everyday Britons, the 1997 2p may have seemed like just another coin in their pockets. But in hindsight, it represents an important part of the story of Elizabeth II's coinage, reflecting her long reign and the gradual evolution of the UK's decimal coinage. In conclusion, the 1997 Elizabeth II 2 pence coin is more than a small denomination. It is a milestone in modern numismatic history. It carried forward the heraldic badge of the Prince of Wales, closed out the Maklauf portrait era, and continued the legacy of a denomination deeply woven into British culture. For collectors, it remains a historically significant year and a must-have piece in any complete decimal collection. Let's get started up the 1990 UK 2 pence coin of Queen Elizabeth II. This year is particularly interesting because it was a midpoint of the Raphael Maklauf portrait era, 1985 to 1997, and was still struck in bronze before the switch to copper-plated steel in 1992. The United Kingdom 2 pence coin, commonly known as the 2p, was first introduced in 1971 during decimalization. By 1990, it had already been in circulation for nearly 2 decades, making a familiar denomination in the hands of the British public. Decimalization replaced the old pounds, shillings, and pence system with a modern structure of 100 pence to the pound. The 2 pence coin filled a natural gap between the small 1 penny coin and the larger 5 pence coin, giving a practical role in everyday transactions. The 1990 issue was struck in bronze, consisting of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. This composition had been used since 1971, and coins of this period carry a distinctive reddish-brown color when new, which darkens over time with circulation. Later, in 1992, the Royal Mint switched to copper-plated steel to reduce production costs. That makes the 1990 bronze strikes part of the final series of true bronze 2 pence coins, an aspect that increases their interest among collectors. On the obverse of the 1992 pence coin is the third portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by sculptor Raphael Maklauf. Introduced in 1985, this effigy was in use until 1997 and remains one of the most recognizable images of the Queen during her middle years. In Maklauf's design, the Queen wears a George IV state diadem, adorned with diamonds, pearls, and crosses. The portrait emphasizes elegance and formality, presenting Elizabeth II as both regal and approachable. The legend surrounding the portrait reads, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina FD, abbreviated Latin meaning Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This inscription continued a centuries-old tradition on British coinage. On the reverse of the coin is a traditional badge of the Prince of Wales. 3 ostrich feathers rising from a coronet, with a ribbon bearing the German motto, Ich dien, which translates as I serve. This heraldic symbol has been associated with the heir to the throne since the 14th century. The words 2 pence appear on the reverse, a change made in 1982. From 1971 to 1981, the coins read new pence to distinguish them from pre-decimal issues, but by 1990 the currency had been well established, making 2 pence standard. The coin measured 25.91 millimeters in diameter and weighed 7.12 grams, making it one of the larger UK decimal coins. Its substantial size made it easy to recognize in circulation and gave it a distinctive feel compared to smaller denominations. In 1990, the Royal Mint struck millions of 2 pence coins for circulation. While this means that the year is not particularly rare in everyday pocket change, uncirculated and proof versions are special interest to collectors. Proof coins from 1990 were issued in collector sets, featuring a sharp strike and mirror-like finish. These were still minted in bronze, and today remain more valuable than their face-value circulation counterparts. Collectors prize the 1992 pence coin not for its rarity in circulation, but for its role as part of the last Bronze era and for the continuation of the Maklauf portrait, which defined the coins of the late 1980s and early 1990s. In everyday life, the 2p coin had significant practical use. It was used for bus fares, newspapers, and vending machines, and it became particularly iconic in amusement arcades, where 2p penny pusher machines were a source of fun and nostalgia. The coin also reflects the economic climate of Britain in 1990. This was a year of transition, as the country moved out of the 1980s into a new decade, marked by shifting policies and changing public life. Coins like the 2p were silent witnesses to these changes. Numismatically, the 1990 issue also stands out because by this time, people had stopped seeing decimal coins as new. They had become fully absorbed into the nation's monetary culture, and the 2 pence was an established part of British daily transactions. Many 1992 pence coins in circulation today show significant wear, as they have been in use for over 30 years. However, well-preserved examples can still be found, and brilliant uncirculated or proof issues command collector premiums. A fascinating aspect for collectors is comparing the 1990 bronze strikes with later copper-plated steel issues. The magnetic property of steel coins introduced in 1992 makes it easy to tell the difference. 1990 coins will not be attracted to a magnet, while later ones will. Historically, the 1992 pence coin is not associated with any minting errors or rare varieties in standard circulation, but proofs and sets from a Royal Mint remain collectible. The true value lies in its place within the broader story of British coinage evolution. In conclusion, the 1990 Elizabeth II 2 pence coin represents both continuity and heritage. Struck in bronze, bearing the Maklauf portrait, and inscribed with the traditional royal symbols, it captures a moment in time when British coinage was stable, yet quietly preparing for future changes. For collectors, it stands as a solid, historically significant piece of Elizabeth II's long coinage legacy.